In this lesson, we're going to begin to learn about arrays. In Java, an array is a construct that allows us to group multiple items within a single variable. Now, Java is not the only language that has this construct. Most high-order programming languages let you take multiple copies of something and refer to it by a single variable. So each item within an array is called an element, and all elements within an array have to be the same type. So they're either all ints, or they're all strings, or they're all checking accounts, or they're all doubles, they're all booleans, they're all any class you might create. Using arrays allows us to keep track of an entire list of values, so we can manipulate it, or search for specific elements in it, or sort it, or insert new data, and so forth. It would be very inconvenient for us if we were, say, the bank manager and we had 6,000 checking accounts and we had to write a program to go through them, and we had to have 6,000 different variables, one for each customer, and when new customer 6001 joined our bank tomorrow, we'd have to change our program. It's much better to think of, I'm going to do the same thing over and over to multiple versions of similar data. That's what arrays are for. So let's learn a little bit more. To use an array, just like to use an object or to use an int or to use a boolean, we have to declare it before we can use it. So to declare an array, we code the type of the array followed by square brackets, an open and a closed square bracket with nothing in between them, and the name of the array variable. So here's 4 examples. Int open and closing brackets XYZ says, I'm going to have a variable called XYZ. What's going to be in XYZ? It's going to be an array of integers. Next line, I'm going to have a variable called temperatures. Temperatures, each one of them is going to be a double, and there's going to be an array of them. String, square brackets, args. There is going to be a variable called args that's an array, so there are multiple args, each one of which is a string. You should recognize this line because string square bracket args is part of what shows up in our main method in every program we've coded so far. Now you know what it means. And finally, we could have checking account, square brackets, lots of checking accounts. A variable called lots of checking accounts. Each element of that array would be of type checking account. So we've declared an array, but we can't use it yet. Just like we declare an object, we say checking account C, means C is going to be a checking account, but we can't use it until we create a new object. Just like with objects, after we declare an array, we need to instantiate it, meaning make a real copy of it before we can start using it. So just as we did with objects, we're going to use the new keyword. When we instantiate an array, we have to specify exactly how many elements the array will have. So going back to one of the examples we had on the previous page, if I have int square brackets XYZ, that says XYZ is going to be an array where each element is an int. The next line, XYZ equals new int square bracket 25, means now that you know that XYZ is going to be an array, create a new array that has 25 elements in it, each one of which is an integer, and hook up the variable XYZ so that it's pointing to those 25 ints. And of course, like we can do with any of our other declarations, I could combine those two statements into one. I can combine the declaration and the instantiation on one line. I can say double square bracket temperatures equals new double 17, meaning make temperatures a variable that points to an array, each element of which is a double, and now create the array that has 17 elements, each of which is a double. So let's see what's happening in memory. Let's just go through a picture of this. When I do int square bracket my nums, what does Java do? Well, in memory, it creates you just a little variable that it's going to say is my nums. It's just enough space to say, here's where I'm going to be putting my nums. And it's got a value of null in it, meaning it's not instantiated. So I know I'm going to be pointing to an array that has multiple integers in it, but I don't know where that array is yet. If you tried to use my nums at this point, you would get a runtime exception called null pointer exception. And boy, I guarantee you when you write code in Java, you will see null pointer exceptions all the time. I get these too, because I forget sometimes. Now when I do this statement here, my nums equals new int 4, that says, Java, create me an array that has 4 elements in it, each of which is an integer. And wherever you put that array, go back and make sure that the variable my nums points to it. So what's happening in memory? I get 4 slots to put integers in. 4 different slots. Java numbers them 0, 1, 2, and 3. We'll get to that on our next page. But there are 4 slots, each of which is an integer, and the variable my nums now points to it. I can now refer to my nums and get to either element 0 or element 1 or element 2 or element 3. So how do we refer to those elements? Well, array elements, as you saw on the previous page, are numbered beginning with 0, and they end with 1 less than the total number of elements. So, for example, an array that has 10 elements are numbered 0 through 9. An array that has 22 elements would be numbered 0 through 21, and so forth. You refer to a specific element of an array by using a subscript within those square brackets. So XYZ square bracket 0 refers to element 0. That's the first element in the array. Temperature square bracket 3 refers to element number 3. That's the 4th one in. 0, 1, 2, 3. Lots of checking accounts square bracket I, or sub I, refers to element I of the array lots of checking account.